ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the discussion on Great Master Sri Ramakrishna or Leela Prasanga written by Shardanandaji Maharaj. As usual, we were looking into the life of Mathuranath Vishwas. We will continue that and come to the proper life of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Mathuranath, who had doubt, he had high respect that Sri Ramakrishna was a great soul, but he had his own doubt about whether he was the Avatara incarnation. And so Bhairavi Brahmani had to prove it. She told that bring the congregation of scholars who are well versed in scriptures. I'm going to prove. So Now, one by one, scholars started coming. A great scholar of the Vaishnava tradition. His name was Vaishnava Charan, who was a illumined soul. He declared from his own understanding that Mahabhava, supreme devotion, was fully manifest in Sri Ramakrishna. This verdict made by the Brahmani jubilant and created a sensation among the people. Mathur was dumbfounded, but Sri Ramakrishna took it calmly, like a boy. He said to Mathur, "So he really thinks that we will anyway, well, anyway, I'm glad it's not a disease." A few days later, Pandit, that is another scholar, great scholar in Sanskrit and scriptures, Pandit Gauri, came to Dakshineshwar unannounced. So, this great scholar, Pandit Gauri, came to Dakshineshwar unannounced and entered the Kali temple, repeating a mantram loudly. This was one of his occult powers, which made him invincible in debate. Generally, in olden days, the Pandits used to argue with other scholars who are well versed in scriptures, and when they would win in that arguments, they would be considered as the best scholars. So, this Pandit Gauri had some miraculous power. He was a worshipper of Divine Mother. So, he had some miraculous power when he would utter, when he would chant that mantra, particular mantra which he knew loudly, all other Pandits or scholars who were in the hearing would become dumbfounded, or they would lose their confidence and they couldn't win. Always it was this great scholar Gauri Pandit who would win. So he had such miraculous power. He entered the Kali temple repeating mantra, his mantra loudly. This was one of his occult power, which made him invincible in debate. But Sri Ramakrishna didn't know this incident. Ramakrishna had never met this Pandit, Gauri Pandit earlier. He has come to the Kali temple for the first time. Sri Ramakrishna, without knowing about his occult power, began shouting the mantram louder than Gauri. Gauri Pandit chanted the mantra loudly. As soon as he would chant the mantra loudly, all the other scholars in the congregation would get some sort of a nervousness, and they couldn't win in any way against this Pandit. He had this great occult power. The moment he would utter that mantra, all other scholars would be dumbfounded and they couldn't win him in the argument. That was his power. So now Ramakrishna never knew this. But as soon as Gauri Pandit entered the temple complex and went into the temple and he started repeating that mantra which had that occult power loudly into the hearing of many people, without any knowledge of that, Ramakrishna started chanting the very same mantra. Ramakrishna didn't know that mantra. The very same mantra was repeated by Sri Ramakrishna, much more louder voice. So Ramakrishna, without knowing about this power, began shouting the mantram louder than Gauri Pandit. After a few exchanges, each one louder than the last, Sri Ramakrishna won the shouting match and absorbed Gauri's occult power. Sri Ramakrishna had some special features. He could absorb the occult power of any person who would come to him, because occult powers are an obstacle in the path of God realization. When people who are progressing forward in their spiritual life, they will be tempted by this external nature, giving them occult powers, and he will deviate from the path of God realization towards gaining name and fame, towards gaining more money, or towards getting some other worldly benefits. So then they will get deviated. It is just like now you are calling your mother, you are the child, a small child. Mother is too busy in her work, lot of work. So the child will call. Nowadays, the mothers are so busy in their office work, in so many other works. So earning money, even if working from home, they'll be so busy. So what do? They give some toys to the children. Earlier days, there were so many other toys. Present day, They give the, what do you call, the computer, iPad, iPhone, or some tab, or some other gadgets, electronic gadgets, where they will be seeing some video or some video games or some cartoons. In the small children will start viewing that cartoon and other things and get absorbed. So they will not be worried about mother. So naturally now the mother can go and do some other work. She'll be busy in earning money or doing the work of the office, whatever. So likewise, the Divine Mother too will give us some toys or some iPad or this thing, some cartoons, Mickey Mouse or some Tom and Jerry, and then the children will be engrossed in that game or toy, and the Divine Mother will go to her work. So much of work is there. She has to look after so many millions and billions of living beings, so many universes, so many Milky Ways, so many solar systems, Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Janani. So she has to look after so many Brahmandas. Brahmandas means universes, galaxies, Milky Ways, so many, not one or two. So she will go away, giving some occult power. Then we will be very happy with that and forget God. That's why you get occult powers, means uh, that's an obstacle. You will not now, you will forget God. So whoever would come to Ramakrishna, that occult power would be absorbed, and Ramakrishna would make those people go forward in spiritual life without any obstacles. He would remove the obstacles like this. So just like Ganesha, who is the remover of obstacles, Vigna Raja, he removes the obstacles, Vigna Nashaka. Likewise, Ramakrishna also, you can see in the Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa, Ramakrishna has also this power of removing the obstacles in the path of spiritual life. So now Ramakrishna can be called Vigna Nivaraka. Ganesha's ideal can be found here, Vigna Nivaraka. So it would absorb all the obstacles on the path of spiritual life and make you go smoothly progress forward in spiritual life. So now this great devotee of Divine Mother, he had this occult power. So he was very much immersed in that, always winning the competition amongst the scholar and getting name and fame and becoming more powerful scholar. So though he was a great devotee of Divine Mother, so he had no time for doing sadhana and realizing Mother, Divine Mother. But Sri Ramakrishna, without knowing about his power, began shouting the mantram louder than Gauri Pandit. After a few exchanges, each one louder than the last, Sri Ramakrishna won the shouting match and absorbed Gauri's occult power. Gauri Pandit understood Sri Ramakrishna's greatness. Later, when he heard that Vaishnav Charan had declared the master to be an incarnation of God, he said, I consider that to be an understatement. Whatever Vaishnav Charan has declared in the congregation of the Pandits in front of Bhairavi Brahmani, the declaration of Vaishnav Charan. So Gauri Pandit is telling he came to know who Sri Ramakrishna was because he had those occult powers and he had progressed forward in spiritual life. So he came to know what is the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna by some of the incidences there. How could Sri Ramakrishna know that he knew he had this occult power? And not only that, he removed that obstacle and allowed him to go forward in spiritual life. So he could understand the greatness. So only his Ishtadevata, the Divine Mother Kali, knew. She had given this occult power to him. So only the Divine Mother knew. Now he came to know Ramakrishna is none other than his Divine Mother, Kali or Bhavani or Durga. So he felt so happy in the company of Sri Ramakrishna when he came to know that Vaishnav Charan, another great scholar, had declared that Sri Ramakrishna is an avatar. So what did Gauri Pandit declare after that? When he heard that this great scholar, the great Vaishnava, his name was Pandit Vaishnav Charan, had declared the master to be an incarnation of God, Gauri Pandit told that I consider that declaration of Vaishnav Charan to be an understatement. I believe that you are he. Then he told about Ramakrishna, he declared that I believe that you are he, by a fraction of whose power, the avatars come forth and accomplish their mission. So this was the declaration of this Gauri Pandit. He told, whatever Vaishnava Charan has declared that Ramakrishna is an avatar is an understatement. But I, as a knower of so many scriptures and a Pandit, I know I have the grace of Divine Mother. I'm a great devotee of Shakti Aradhaka. I consider the statement of Vaishnava Charan as an understatement. I believe that you, Ramakrishna, or he, by a fraction of whose power the avatars come forth and accomplish their missions. So that is the Divine Mother Durga herself, whose help has to be taken by the avatar Purushas to accomplish their work in the earth. You see Krishna telling Yogamaya to come and help him. Every time Yogamaya had to come and help him. Wherever, whichever avatar comes, so Lord Krishna is told in Bhagavad Gita, with the help of the my Maya, Mama Maya Duratyaya, I take the birth, I take the form of human being. So then come down to the earth and do my work of the establishment of righteousness. Krishna tells, I take the help of my Maya. So Gauri Pandit is declaring, I consider that to be an understatement. I believe that you are he, by a fraction of whose power the avatars come forth and accomplish their mission. Most probably it was during this period that Mathur once more tested Sri Ramakrishna to see whether or not he had truly conquered lust. So he wanted to test Sri Ramakrishna whether he had truly conquered lust completely, kama. So he secretly engaged Lakshmi Bai, a famous courtesan of Calcutta. So a beautiful courtesan, a prostitute. So he engaged that courtesan, Lakshmi Bai of Calcutta, to tempt Sri Ramakrishna again. One day, Mathur picked up Sri Ramakrishna and Hriday in his carriage for what was supposed to be a pleasure trip. Instead, they went to Lakshmi Bai's quarters in Mechua Bazaar, Calcutta. According to plan, Mathur and Hriday entered a sitting room and sent Sri Ramakrishna, who was unaware of the plot, to Lakshmi's room, where she was waiting to receive him. As soon as Master saw Lakshmi, he addressed her as blissful Divine Mother. So addressed her as blissful Divine Mother, bowed down to her, and he merged into Samadhi. Generally, the ordinary mind, whenever it sees the object of sense, the temptation, the sensual objects, then it is dragged down to the worldly plane. Even people of very high control, self control, sense control, their mind also will be pulled down to the worldly state and they may fall down. So that's why the great sadhakas, the people who are going forward in spiritual life, they keep away from these sensual objects, they protect themselves. Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna tells, they take away all the senses just like the tortoise and try to place it in Parabrahman. So they don't want to go to the place of temptation. But Ramakrishna had so much of control that even any bad things which would have reminded them of the lower things and dragged down the mind would drag his mind to the higher state and he would merge in samadhi. Even the worldly things, for example, now the word karana in Bengali language, karana means alcohol. The moment anybody, the ordinary drunkard, sees or hears about that alcohol who is a drunkard, his mind would be dragged down to the law of intoxication, and that alcoholic kick or intoxication and would put us down to go and take that alcohol. But when Ramakrishna would hear that word, Karana, so he would be reminded of the Jagat Karana. Karana in Bengali is the alcohol. But in Sanskrit, and also another term for Karana means the cause. It is a cause of intoxication. But Ramakrishna's pure mind would remember the cause of this world itself. What is the cause of the world? The cause of the intoxication is alcohol, Karana. But the cause of this universe is Lord. So anything and everything, even the worst of the things, sensual things, would remind Sri Ramakrishna of that higher source Lord, and his mind would rush and merge in samadhi. Likewise, here too, the moment he saw this courtesan, the prostitute who has been engaged by Mathur Babu to drag his mind down to the sensual plane, to the body plane, and put him down in that attraction of lust. But the moment he saw, he was allowed to go into that room alone, lock the door from outside. The moment he saw that courtesan Lakshmi Boy or that beautiful prostitute, immediately Ramakrishna remembered that divine mother, blissful divine mother, and he merged in samadhi. According to plan, Mathur and Hriday entered the sitting room and sent Sri Ramakrishna, who was unaware of the plot, to Lakshmi Bai's room, where she was waiting to receive him. As soon as the master saw that courtesan, that prostitute, beautifully dressed and ready to attract him, drag him down. So, where he was waiting to receive him, Lakshmi Bai, now Ramakrishna addressed her as the blissful divine mother. Bow down to her. He couldn't see anybody anywhere. Even the worst of the attracting things he could see only his blissful divine mother. Whatever thing he saw is blissful divine mother. So he bowed down, he touched her feet, addressing her as the blissful divine mother. He bowed down to that prostitute as divine mother and touched her feet, and immediately seeing divine mother in that prostitute, he merged in samadhi. Lakshmi had never been before seen. Lakshmi Bai had never before seen a person like this. So how could? Because she would come in contact with people who were only interested in worldly things, lust. So that was all she saw. But she had never seen in her life such a pure person. She had never seen before a person like this, calling all other girls of that prostitution, all other girls who were there in that prostitution camp. So she called all the other prostitutes. She said, "Look, look, look, this man is free from lust. I've never seen. All these days I have been in this work of prostitution. So I have never seen. Look, this is the man who is free, completely free from lust." So you can see that the designation as a purest man, or the designation as a man without even a trace of lust, is given by none other than that prostitute Lakshmi Bai. Now, when she called all other prostitutes and so, "Look here, this man is free from lust." One of the prostitutes said, "It seems to me that he's a God man." The other prostitute told, "He's not only an ordinary man who has conquered lust, but is a God man." Even that prostitute could understand, because even in every human being, it is the Lord who is present in the heart. So she said, "It seems to me that he is a God man." Another prostitute, a girl, remarked there, "Our profession may be sinful. By the difficult situation in our life, we have entered into this profession, sinful profession. But what a great good fortune for us. Even though we are so lowly, we have entered this sinful profession. Today, it's a very special day for us, because we might have done so much of punya, merit. We have earned so much of punya. So, what great good fortune for us that we have seen such a great soul in our life." Still another prostitute said, "Sister, what a hell we have invited by trying to tempt this holy man. It is an unpardonable sin." Lakshmi and other girls bowed down to Sri Ramakrishna and took the dust of his feet. Just then, Mathur and Hriday came to the room. The woman, all those women severely reprimanded Mathur for encouraging them to tempt a godman, an act that could ruin their lives. Sri Ramakrishna gradually returned to the normal plane of consciousness, and Mathur took him back to the Kshineshwar. So now we have read some of the portions from the life of Mathur. So even if we are reading the life of Mathur, it is just Ramakrishna only. So we are just thinking, meditating on the divine Leelas, the sports of Sri Ramakrishna only, the great Avatara. Now we'll come to the proper life, and we shall start discussing about the life of Sri Ramakrishna in the great master of Leela Prasanga, written by Sharadanandaji Maharaj. Yesterday in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we saw Sharadanandaji Maharaj telling that Ramakrishna used to tell his direct disciples who used to come to him always, dive deep, dive to the depths of yourself. You need not go to any sea, ocean, Indian Ocean, or any other ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and jump into it and dive. So many people who don't have any work to do, important work in their life, they have a lot of money, a lot of time, they go do such jumping, scuba diving, and so many other things, diving into the ocean, going and seeing the world there. They will spend their money. You've seen so many other people even getting married in the under the ocean bed, doing so many things, parties, hotel, and other things inside the seabed, diving inside the scuba diving. Then some people dive from the aeroplane. Then they have their marriage above in the air. So many other silly things they'll be doing because they don't have any work to do. So important work, or because lot of money, lot of time, they don't know how to spend their precious time. So they'll be wasting in these things. So we used to hear while traveling in train or traveling in some other buses. So the people, the vendors used to come with peanuts and so many other things. They used to tell, time pass peanuts, time pass peanuts. They used to make that sound and come. So the peanuts are there. You have to buy the peanuts and eat. So you'll be traveling for a long time in the bus or the train. How to pass your time? So take this peanut and start eating one by one, and it will pass your time. So likewise, you have to pass your time. You can also take some good books and start reading. You can do your work. I have heard one of our Swami, now he is 91 or 92 years old. His name is Swami Harshanandaji Maharaj, revered Swamiji, revered Srimad Swami Harshanandaji Maharaj, who is now the head of Bangalore Center. He's 92 years old. He's a very great scholar, Sanskrit scholar, and also he has written so many books, even the Encyclopedia of Hinduism. Encyclopedia can be made by many articles of many scholars, but he alone, working for more than 45 years, 45 years, he has published great four volumes of Encyclopedia of Hinduism. So like that, he has written so many other books. He's a great scholar. Now he's 91, 92 years. He used to tell us, we grew up under his care, under his tutorship. As brahmacharis, we grew up under him. He used to tell, he was in Mysore, working there, looking after one institution called Rimse Ramakrishna Institute of Moral Science. And he used to regularly travel from Mysore to Bangalore. So in those days, the ordinary train, when you used to start from Mysore, then used to come to Bangalore, it would take 3 hours. Now the time has reduced to 1 or 1.5 hours because of the high-speed trains and high-speed vehicles and the roads, good roads, and all the electric trains. But in those days, it would take 3 hours. So Maharaj himself used to tell us how he used to spend the time. So he had to frequently come, weekly, twice, weekly, thrice to Bangalore for work of that institution. So he used to start there, taking up Chandi. What is Chandi? Durga Saptashati, 700 verses of Durga Saptashati. So it will take nearly 2.5 to 3 hours. So he'll open the books, no talking with other passengers, nothing, nobody else. So whoever may be there with him, he will open that book Chandi, Devi Mahatmyam, Durga Saptashati, 700 verses. So we'll start chanting with great religious fervor. So all through the train journey, he'll be chanting that. The moment he reaches Bangalore, it is 3 hours now. He has completed Durga Saptashati and he will go to his work after that chanting. Again, while coming back, he would sit in the train going to Mysore from Bangalore. So he will start chanting Durga Saptashati. So 2.5 hours it will be completed, and 3 hours the train will reach Mysore and again go back to the ashram there. So he used to spend his time by chanting. So many people we have seen they will start doing japa continuously until that destination is reached. Some people will chant Vishnu Sahasranama. Some people will read the great works or lives of like Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata. They'll be chanting. So I have seen in Mumbai, earlier it was called Bombay. Now the name is changed to Mumbai. So there I was going to different places from our ashrama in car. So while going, I use these local trains. The local trains are very busy. Many people will be sitting there early in the morning. All the people are going to the offices. What will the ladies do? They will sit, bring the vegetables. They will bring all other peas, so many other things, vegetable and rice. They will start cleaning rice. They will start cleaning the vegetables. They will cutting vegetables and put it into the tiffin box. As soon as they reach the house, they will keep for cooking. So they will not waste their time. The mothers will be preparing for cooking while going in the train. So they will bring all the articles. They will prepare for the cooking in the house. And what will be the men folk doing? So the men folk, they will all gather together. They will bring harmonium, they will bring tabla, they will bring so many other musical instruments. And with the tala, kanjani, they will start singing the bhajans of Panduranga, Vithala, and Krishna, Rama, Shiva. So all through, every compartment is singing bhajans. I have seen the men folk singing bhajans and the women folk also joining singing the bhajans. So multitask. Not only they will be doing bhajans with the because the ladies compartment will be different, the men compartment will be different, but the whole compartment will be chanting. So the whole outside the railway, outside the train, you'll be hearing the bhajans loudly. All hundreds, 200 people chanting that together every day. So even in the ladies compartment, they can hear the bhajans. So hearing the bhajans, they also will be joining the bhajans and getting ready the cooking articles. So they will spend time in such a good way. But see what other people do. We spend our time in so many silly things because we don't have any important work to do. Either playing, Ramakrishna used to tell, playing cards and going here and there, this scuba diving and bungee jumping, so many other things. You don't have any good work to do, higher work to do, we will do like that. But Ramakrishna is telling the sadhakas, the spiritual aspirants, people who are serious in life, to dive deep. What is that? If you do bungee jumping and scuba diving there, yeah, in your own mind, in your own heart, you have that ocean of knowledge, ocean of consciousness in your own heart. And that is your Atman, that is your Paramatma Swarupa is there, the ocean, more bigger than the Indian Ocean, more bigger than the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, more bigger than all the seven oceans put together, or billion times more bigger than that is in your own heart. That is the Paramatma Swarupa. So dive deep into that. So Ramakrishna used to tell the sadhakas who used to come to him. So Shardanandaji Maharaj used to tell, Ramakrishna used to tell, dive deep, dive to the depths of yourself, your Atman, dive deep there. Overwhelmed. So many gems are there, so many pearls, so many diamonds you can get. Go and get it. What are the diamonds? What are the pearls? What are the precious stones within your own heart? Is the spiritual experiences, all the different samadhis, all the different experiences, the visions, all those things are there in your depth of your heart. Go dive deep. Don't be floating on the surface. Don't be superfluous in spiritual life. Dive deep. Ramakrishna used to tell, dive deep, dive to the depths of yourself. Overwhelmed with the anguish of his heart, the master, we were told, rubbed his face against the sandy bank of the Ganga under the Panchavati, saying, Mother, Mother, reveal thyself to me. And was it a matter of day or two? For years together, he did his sadhana. It went on unabated. Days passed by. Those words only enter our ears but do not rouse corresponding echoes in our hearts at all. And how can it be otherwise? Have we got that childlike, all consuming faith of the Master in the existence of the Divine Mother and in the possibility of attaining her vision by renouncing everything and calling on her with utter eagerness of the heart? Do we have that childlike simplicity, Shraddha? So now, Ramakrishna, one day, while living at Kashipur, the master astonished us. Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling so many these would be future sannyasins like Shardanandaji Maharaj, Abhedanandaji, Swami Vivekananda, all would go. More than 30, 40 sadhakas used to come, or even more used to come, would become all renouncing monks in future. So all, when they used to come, Ramakrishna used to inspire them with his own life of spirituality. So it's once so happened, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, one day while living in Kashipur, the master astonished us by giving us a little indication of the measure and the intensity of his spiritual sadhana, spiritual urge. What was the intensity? See, he can tell it. I had so much of intensity, infinite intensity. The urge, the divine dispassion to realize Mother was so intense. I used to do like that in words, you can tell. But now Ramakrishna is giving a comparison. One day in Kashipur, Ramakrishna astonished us, all the would-be sannyas and disciples, some of them giving a little indication of the measure and intensity of a spiritual urge at the time of sadhana, spiritual practice. What was the intensity of the urge? We cannot say whether we shall be able to give the reader even a faint picture of what we then felt. We shall, however, try. So Shardanandaji Maharaj wants to try to rouse, to make us understand what was the intensity of Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual urge in the spiritual kingdom. So what was that eagerness to realize God? So he's telling, I will try to explain it to you now, what Ramakrishna told us. So it surprised us what was the intensity. It is very difficult for me to make you understand, but I'll try. We were witnessing with our own eyes the intense eagerness of Swami Vivekananda. At the time, before coming to Ramakrishna, Narendra, he was in search of God. He used to go to everybody. He used to go to, if he hears there are any spiritual aspirants anywhere, he used to rush, ask them, have you seen God, sir? Have you seen God? If you have seen, please show it to me. I want to see God. So he had that urge. He was in that mode of sadhana to realize God. So he's searching. The intensity was so much that he was searching everybody. He was doing so much of sadhana, spiritual practices to realize God, Narendra. So we were witnessing with our own eyes the intense eagerness of Swami Vivekananda for the realization of God, how spiritual awakening came on him when he was going to deposit the fee for his law examination. We saw that how the awakening came on him when he was going to deposit the fee for his law examination, how, goaded by the intense zeal and oblivious of the world, he ran along the city road like a madman. So Narendra ran along the city, Calcutta, the road, goaded by the intense zeal and oblivious of the world. He was not aware of that big city, so many people, so many vehicles, the intensely busy. You can see just like you can't compare with the South African city, that density jam, the traffic jam. You have to go to Calcutta to see that. So in those days too, British period, Calcutta was the capital, and it was so busy, so many horse carriages, so many other vehicles, so many people, so oblivious of the surrounding, of the world around him. He ran. He ran along the city road like one mad, barefooted and covered with but a single piece of cloth, to the place where the master was, and obtained his grace on laying bare to him the anguish of his heart. How he intensely put out his heart that he want to see God, he want to realize, he want to get that spiritual experience, so much of intensity. He opened up his heart to Ramakrishna going there. He went to Ramakrishna where the master was and obtained his grace, and laying bare to him the anguish of his heart, how since then he spent his time night and day in japa, night and day in japa and meditation, devotional songs and spiritual study, continuously, intensely was practicing spiritual life after Ramakrishna gave him that grace. So, how on account of his boundless enthusiasm for sadhana, his usually tender heart turned adamant and remained quite indifferent to the sufferings of his mother and brothers, and how advancing with single-minded devotion on the path of sadhana, pointed out by his preceptor, he was having vision after vision, culminating at last in his first enjoyment of the bliss of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He even got the highest spiritual experience. It culminated in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So we could see how intense was his practice and urge to realize God at that time. So he even he experienced the first enjoyment of the bliss of Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Kashipur in just short period of 3 or 4 months. So all these things took place before our very eyes and completely struck us dumb. We all saw this with our own eyes. We were also going to Kashipur. It is not some hearsay, somebody telling. We all saw with our own eyes within 3 or 4 months because of his intense eagerness to realize God. He came and opened his heart to Ramakrishna and following his instructions, he started doing sadhana so intensely. So he got, after getting visions after visions, then different experiences, finally, at last, he got the highest, that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, bliss of Nirvikalpa Samadhi also, in a very short period of 3 or 4 months. All these things took place before our own eyes and completely struck us dumb. Greatly delighted, seeing that his disciples progress, greatly delighted. The Guru, Sri Ramakrishna, he was so delighted to see that the master used to praise highly the Swamis, Swami Vivekananda's, then Narendra, extraordinary devotion, eagerness, and enthusiasm for spiritual practices. So Ramakrishna himself used to praise. One day, at that time, the master compared Swami Vivekananda, Narendra's love and enthusiasm for sadhana with those, he compared the intensity of sadhana of Vivekananda with his own. How he was doing sadhana before realizing God and Divine Mother. How was the urge? How was the intensity? He compared with his own. So now, greatly delighted, the master used to praise highly the Swamis, extraordinary devotion, eagerness, and enthusiasm for spiritual practices. One day, at that time, the master compared the Swami's love and enthusiasm for sadhana with those of his own intensity before realizing Divine Mother. What was that intensity? We started comparing. Now, with comparison, with simile, people can understand better. So Shardanandaji Maharaj got an inkling. So now Shardanandaji, with that, bringing back the same comparison, is trying to bring that, make us understand what was the intensity. So how was that comparison done? So now Ramakrishna himself, one day at the time, the master compared the Swami Vivekananda's or Narendra's love and enthusiasm for sadhana, spiritual practice, with those of his own, and said, Narendra's devotion and enthusiasm are extraordinary indeed. I have never seen anybody having that intensity. They are extraordinary. His devotion, bhakti, and enthusiasm for spiritual realization is extraordinary indeed. But compared with the urge that came here, he's showing himself, Sri Ramakrishna, because he couldn't tell I, because he had completely obliterated, completely abnegated that ego or selfishness, I. As we have told in Karma Yoga, Swami Vivekananda has explained what is that, what is the essence of all the spiritual yogas and paths, religion, everything. What is the essence? If you boil, if you nicely squeeze everything, just like you squeeze the lemon or the orange they get that essence of that juice of that. So likewise, if you squeeze, if you boil, if you crush all the yogas and take the residue, the essence is all the 4 yogas or how many ever yogas may be there, of all the religious path to lead to spiritual life. If you crush it and get the essence, then what is that essence? Swami Vivekananda tells in Karma Yoga, perfect self-abnegation. Perfect. Self, that is ego. Negation, destruction. Abnegation, complete destruction. is the essence. So removal of our ego completely, removal of our selfishness completely is the basic aspect of spiritual life, the basis. We all consider that we are all spiritual aspirants, but we go on increasing our ego. We become more egoistic as we go forward in spiritual life. We become more selfish as we go forward in spiritual selfishness. All for me. I want all the benefit. I want to be happy. I want to be sleeping. I want to be eating. I want to get everything facility. Everybody should come and do me seva. Everybody should be taking care of me. Everybody's attention should be towards me. So I should be given the first place in the house or in the place. The first place should for me. So everybody should eat after I eat. So they should give me the chair. Nobody should sit on that particular chair. I am the commander. So that is ego. That is selfishness. So giving up that selfishness, removal of that completely, perfect self-abnegation is the essence, basics of spiritual life. So compare where we are. We are increasing our ego, increasing our selfishness, and we tell that, claim that we are great spiritual aspirants. We show off, we put up outer this thing that we are great spiritual aspirants. We are going to the ashrama, we are going to the satsangs. We do so much of bhajans, we do so much of hear so many lectures. What is the use? Basic is obliterating your ego, removal of your selfishness. So, what is the hallmark? What is the measuring stick, yardstick to measure how much you have progressed in spiritual life? Vivekananda tells, revered Swami Ranganathananda Ji Maharaj tells, have you grown unselfish? Have you become unselfish? Have you removed your selfishness? Have you removed your ego? Then that is the yardstick. That is the measurement stick that you have gone forward in spiritual life. The more you reduce your ego, your selfishness, the more you feel for others, the more you want to serve others first and you next, that much spiritually you have progressed forward. Nobody needn't tell you. You yourself can watch how much ego you have reduced, how much ego you have crushed within you, how much you have become more and more unselfish. That itself will show that how much you have progressed in spiritual life. So that is the only yardstick, the fine yardstick, the measurement stick. Okay, now, yeah, because Ramakrishna had completely obliterated ego, selfishness. So it was only Divine Mother there present in him, or God and God, God and God alone, nothing but God in him, nothing but God. No ego. So now he couldn't tell I. So comparing Narendra's intensity, he was telling Narendra, spiritual enthusiasm and devotion is extraordinary, very high. Enthusiasms for spiritual practices. One day, at the time, the master compared the Vivekananda's love and enthusiasm for sadhana with those of his own and said Narendra's devotion and enthusiasm are extraordinary indeed. But compared to the urge that came here, pointing to himself, that came here, pointing to himself at the time of sadhana, before I realized Divine Mother, the intensity it came, then Narendra's will pale into insignificance. Intensity of Narendra, when compared to this, how much this aspired, that is Ramakrishna himself, how much the urge was to divine, to realize the Lord, that urge, that intensity. So compared to that, whatever you are seeing, Narendra's is very high. But when compared to pointing himself at the time of his sadhana, Ramakrishna is telling Narendra's is most ordinary. If Narendra's intense urge, giving up everything and realizing, getting that highest this thing, vision after vision, highest samadhi within 4 months, is very small compared to Sri Ramakrishna, then what will be ours? If Ramakrishna starts comparing with our spiritual life, where are we? Not even a minuscule point or 10 to the power of minus so many n number of time, infinity, or 0.00000000 infinite. So compared to Ramakrishna, our spiritual, this thing is so less. So it is only all this comparison has been done to increase our intensity to realize God. The urge in us, all these, I told Mohamudgara, the pestle, Shankaracharya, taking that pestle, Mohamudgara, that song, Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, it tells the song Bhajagovindam. But the name given by Shankaracharya to that song is, Stotra is the Mohamudgara. Mudgara means pestle, which is used to pound the paddy. It will be a long, big rod. On the either side, there will be that metallic surfaces to pound the paddy. So that when it is pounded, our mothers in olden days used to do that. It would be put into a pounding stone, all the paddy. Then they used to take this pestle and pound it. Two ladies used to stand together and both catching that in one hand like this, like this. Both of them will be pounding it, and it will crack. The paddy husk will crack, and you will get that rice. So then we used to do that winnowing centrifugation, that winnow, and separate that paddy husk with that rice, and we used to consume the rice. We all know that, but nowadays machineries have come. In those days, it was this pestle, pounding pestle. So Shankaracharya is telling that moha means attachment to this worldly life. Mudgara is this pestle. There, if it is there to husk the paddy, here it will husk us from this worldly life, remove that attraction to the worldly life, and bring in the real rice, essence of the paddy, real rice, that is spiritual life. So that attachment will be removed by that pestle of that Mohamudgara. So Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte, Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrang Karane. Your grammar and other things, what you are getting by heart, doing all this hard work for earning money and just filling your stomach, tummy. That is not the only thing. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Tell the name of Govinda, Lord Krishna, Govinda. Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. O foolish man, think of the Lord, tell the name of the Lord. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrang karane. By just repeating the grammatical things and the multiplication tables, that will not protect you when the Lord of death comes and is about to drag you by your neck. So only the name of Govinda, Lord, only can protect you. So like that, the pounding will be done. So like that, and to awaken us. Likewise, so Sharadanandaji is awakening us, awakening that intensity in us to realize God. The moment we finish off the class and go, again we are into our worldly life. Nobody is telling that you should not earn money or do your worldly job, but transform every even act of earning money, going to the office, working, business, everything is an offering to the Lord. Convert that into worship, convert all your work into worship. Then even your work will lead you. That is Karma Yoga. So that's why to bring you that urge, Sharadanandaji Maharaj is giving us the comparison. And Ramakrishna is telling, whatever I saw in Narendra, that extraordinary enthusiasm to realize God, and compared to the one which had this place, it came here, the intensity to realize God, compared to that, Narendra's, it is very, very ordinary. And compare, his is most ordinary. Then compare with yourself or myself, I feel ashamed. I should awaken to realize God, I should do sadhana. This is most ordinary. It is not even 1/4 of that. Can you imagine, O reader? Can you imagine, O hearers, or listeners here in this class, the overwhelming surprise we felt at those words of the Master? Can you imagine Sharadanandaji Maharaj is asking the question to all the people who are hearing here in this class? Can you imagine, O reader, the overwhelming surprise we felt at those words of the Master? Thus, the Master took the hint from the Universal Mother, forget everything else, and merged himself in sadhana. It was enough. The faith, intensity, the faith in the words of the Mother is so great. So that's why faith is very important. Just one thing, see, the baby, the child, has so much faith in his own mother. Whatever his mother tells, the child, as it grows up, it gets his ego and loses the faith and starts doubting and being skeptical at any words of the mother. But when it was a just born baby, when it is growing up, you can see the intensity of the faith of the baby to the mother. If the mother tells that baby is your brother, will that baby doubt it? Is not my brother. It will go on doing some DNA testing or go to the forensic lab, taking his DNA strand and other things and comparing to know whether he's my real brother or not. The mother tells he's your brother or she's your sister. It simply believes, it will have intense faith and act accordingly the next moment. So that is that faith. As we go on elderly, that ego comes up and we become more doubtful and other things. Ego is the cause of all problem, root of all cause of all problems is ego, selfishness. So now that baby has so much of intense faith in the words of the mother. So more intense faith you could see in Ramakrishna. That's why Ramakrishna had become childlike, not childish. There's an ocean of difference between childish and childlike. So Ramakrishna had become childlike. Whatever Divine Mother told, no doubting, immediately put it into practice. That's all. So Divine Mother has told Ramakrishna, thus the master took the hint from the Universal Mother, telling that yes, you have to practice sadhana under Rani Ras, no, sorry, Bhairavi Brahmani, the Tantric sadhana and the Vaishnava sadhana, according to the Vaishnava scriptures, you have to follow. Then according to the Tantric, the Shakta scriptures, the Divine Mother's scriptures, you have to follow. Go do it. I have called her. Finished, no more doubt. Immediately, headlong, he plunged into that. That was a faith in the words of Divine Mother. Just like the child, or even intense, more intense than the child, the faith of Sri Ramakrishna. So why are we reading this? So that we may also gather, we may also get that faith in the words of the scriptures and our Guru and starts practicing seriously. At least whatever Guru has told morning and evening. In the Sandhya time, morning and evening, the Guru has given the books and told you in Mantra Diksha to do that japa. At least we shall do that. We will not even do that. We have no time. We don't follow our Guru's instruction at all. At least these things will make us get enthusiasm in spiritual life. We have to give the spiritual food, dive deep into our own, that ocean which is within me, and bring out so many diamonds and precious stones which is hidden there. Thus the master took the hint from the Universal Mother, forget everything else, and merged himself in sadhana. And the learned and masterly Bhairavi Brahmani took endless play when she sees that the disciple is so great, even greater than her in spiritual life, is getting more experiences than her. Then she will become so much enthusiastic. Oh, such a great disciple I'm going to teach. I have to give complete. I have to give my complete. She will take extra pain to teach or help that spiritual aspirant. That's what happened with Bhairavi Brahmani. And the learned and masterly Bhairavi Brahmani took endless pain to collect from various parts of the country, to go here and there, bring so many articles, whatever is told in the scriptures for the spiritual practice of Sri Ramakrishna. She used to go to far off places, maybe costly. She used to bring all those things. She took extreme pains to bring and collect all those items for sadhana of Sri Ramakrishna. The learned and masterly Bhairavi Brahmani took endless pains to collect from various parts of the countries things specifically necessary for the particular rites and gave the master instructions regarding their application at the time of the sadhana. So naturally, Bhairavi Brahmani is inspired intensely to help Sri Ramakrishna progress. He has already progressed just to do all these things, spiritual practices, to compare with already whatever vision he has. So now, in the Tantric Shakta things, you have to bring the skulls. Skull, the bone inside the head is called skull. The skulls of 5 dead beings, 5 different dead beings, including that of a man. The skull of a man, different 5 animals which are dead, were bought from somewhere far away from the Ganga. So, what are those 5 skulls she had to procure? It is told in the Tantra scriptures. Now, hear, O Queen of the Devas, of the best sadhana with the help of the skull. So, in the Tantra scriptures, all the teachings are given by Lord Shiva to Parvati. Now, here in this particular Tantra, Lord Shiva is instructing to Divine Mother Parvati about all these sadhanas. Now, here, O Queen of the Devas, of the best sadhana, with the help of the skulls, by performance of which the sadhaka attains the supreme goal, which is the great Devi herself. O one of excellent face, the three skulls are those of a man, a buffalo, and a cat, or they are three skulls of men alone, and the heads of a jackal, a snake, a dog, and a bull. And in the midst of these, the head of the man, the otherwise five skulls of men alone are called, O powerful one, the five skulls. In Sanskrit, it's called Panchamunda Asana. You have to prepare an asana on which you have to sit and meditate. You have to bury these skulls inside the mud and make an asana. On that you have to sit and meditate. So it's called Pancha, means five, Munda, skull, asana, the seat on which you have to sit. So Shiva is instructing to Devi in the Shakta Granthas. So, powerful one, the five skulls collectively, and on it an altar, a span square, should be made, or an altar 4 cubit square. O Devi should be built the fifth Patala. So, it is given in the fifth Patala Yogini Tantra. So, now the skulls of five dead beings, including that of a man, different, it is told here, of a buffalo, of a bull, of a cat, of a dog, of a snake, of human being. The skulls of five dead beings, including that of a man, were brought from somewhere far away from the Ganga, and two altars, the asana, two altars. It was buried in the ground, and all that mud would be covered. Two altars, now whatever it has been given in this tantra, propitious for tantric sadhana, were constructed. One under the Bilva tree in Panchavati, situated in the northeast boundary of the temple garden, and the other under the Panchavati planted by the master himself. Sitting on either of these skull seats according to the need, the master spent his time in japa and meditation, etc. This extraordinary sadhaka and his guide were not conscious for a few months how days and nights spilled by. The master used to say, in the daytime, the Brahmani went to various places far away from the temple garden and collected and bought various rare articles prescribed by the tantras. The sadhakas generally make one altar and the five heads interred, and sitting on it practice japa, meditation, etc. But the master told us of the two skull seats, that is Pancha, two different Panchamundasana. Three human skulls were interred below the altar under the Bilva tree, and five skulls of five species of dead beings were interred below that under the Panchavati. Shortly after he became perfect in his sadhana, he threw those skulls into the Ganga and broke down both the altars. The two seats were made because the seat of three skulls was favorable to sadhana, or because the spot under the Bilva tree was at that time wholly solitary and therefore more convenient for sadhana. Or it may be that no fire of Homa could be kindled under the Bilva tree on account of proximity to the British government's magazine. That is, they produce that gunpowder and other explosives. So that industry was nearby. The magazine factory, Government of India's, the British magazine factory, arms and ammunition factory was nearby. So no fire could be lit any in the vicinity. So for doing that sadhana and havan and homa, so Ramakrishna had to go a little away to make another Panchamundasana. So now this extraordinary sadhaka, the spiritual aspirant, and his guide, Bhairavi Brahmani, were not conscious for a few months how days and nights slipped by. The master used to say, in the daytime, the Brahmani went to various places far away from the temple garden and collected and bought various rare articles prescribed by the tantras, placing them under the Vilva tree or under the Panchavati at night. She called me, taught me how to make use of those things, and helped me in the performance of the worship of the Divine Mother according to the prescribed rules. With their aid, asking me at last to merge in japa and meditation, I acted accordingly. But I had to perform almost no japa, for hardly did I turn the rosary once. So I would sit down after doing all those sadhana. The end of the sadhana was doing the japa of that particular mantra. Even once I would roll the bead, that was enough. What would happen? For hardly did I turn the rosary once when I merged completely in samadhi. If the mind, pure mind of Sri Ramakrishna, would be dragged to that higher state of samadhi or that parabrahma or consciousness by even the negative and the sensual and worst words or the bad words like karana, alcohol, would remember him of the Jagat Karana, the cause of the universe, and drag him. And even when he would see a prostitute, it would remind him of the Divine Mother and he would merge into Samadhi. Then what would be if you would remember God by Japa? Even one repetition of God name, Japa, was enough. One rosary, turn the rosary once and repeat the name of the God Japa once, enough. If the worst thing would take him to Samadhi, then what about the good things like the Japa? Immediately, just once the name, one Japa, mind is merged in Samadhi. So, but I had to perform almost no Japa, for hardly did I turn the rosary once when I merged completely in Samadhi and realized the result proper to those rites. There was thus no limit to my visions. I had so many visions of different varieties of gods and goddesses and all the demigods and so many other visions, innumerable, infinite. So there was thus no limit to my visions and experiences, all very extraordinary. The Brahmani made me undertake one by one all the disciplines prescribed in the 64 main tantras. 64 main tantras, all difficult to accomplish. Each one were very tough and difficult to accomplish, in trying to practice which most of the sadhakas go astray. So many sadhakas, to perform all these things, when they would try, they will go astray. They have to astray, deviate from the path, and they may become mad or something might happen. Difficulty might come in their life. But Ramakrishna could do that very easily. The Brahmani made me undertake one by one all the disciplines prescribed in the 64 main tantras, all difficult to, each one difficult to accomplish, in trying to practice which most of the sadhakas go astray. But I got through them all successfully by Divine Mother's grace. Ramakrishna himself is telling all those things, that by the grace of Divine Mother, I could accomplish all these things. On one occasion, so while performing these sadhanas on one occasion, I saw the Brahmani had bought at night, nobody knew whence, a beautiful woman in the prime of her youth, and said to me, "My child, worship her as the Divine Mother, Devi." When the worship was finished, she said, "Sit on her lap, my child, and perform japa." I was seized with fear, wept piteously, and said to Mother, O Mother of the universe, what is this command thou givest to one who has taken absolute refuge in thee? Has thy weak child the power to be so impudently daring? But Ramakrishna, when he started crying, praying to Divine Mother, "Oh Mother, why are you putting me to such a test? Is this weak child is so daring to do this job, to do this sadhana? It's very difficult." So on one occasion, Ramakrishna is telling, I saw the Brahmani, Bhairavi Brahmani had bought at night. Nobody knew whence, a beautiful woman in the prime of her youth, and said to me, "My child, worship her as the Devi." When the worship was finished, she said, "Sit on her lap, my child, and perform japa." So even sitting on her lap, his mind should not get swerved. There should be no lustful thoughts or bad thoughts in his mind. It is but natural. When you take something very special, this thing near the mouth. So even without your command, the water will start coming out. So your mind will lose the control. So now, even in that situation where your mind can go astray, so if you can control that, control the mind and merge it in God, then that is the highest self control. So, to bring your sense and mind under complete control, you are made to do all these sadhanas in tantras to make you stronger and stronger and see where you are, how much you have progressed in spiritual life. So now Bhairavi Brahmani is commanding, telling her, my child, worship her as the Devi, Divine Mother herself. When the worship was finished, she said, sit on her lap, my child, and perform japa. I was seized with fear, wept piteously, and said to Divine Mother, prayed to Divine Mother, O Mother, O Mother of the universe, what is this command? Thou givest to one who has taken absolute refuge in thee. I've taken absolute refuge at your feet. I've surrendered myself at your feet. Why are you putting me to this test? Why are you commanding me to do this test? Very difficult. The most difficult. Will this young child, small baby, the child of yours, succeed in this? Can I? Thou givest one who has taken refuge in thee, mother, as thy weak child, as thy weak child, the power to be so impudently daring. But as soon as I said so, I felt as if I were possessed by some unknown power, and an extraordinary strength filled my heart. And no sooner had I uttered the mantra, sat on the lap of the woman like one hypnotized, unaware of what I was doing, then I merged completely in samadhi. Even that most tempting thing took my mind into that higher state of consciousness that is samadhi. I'll again read it. But as soon as I said to the Divine Mother, O Mother, I prayed to Divine Mother, O Mother, Mother of the universe, I was seized with fear, wept piteously, and said to the Divine Mother, O Mother, Mother of the universe, what is this command thou givest to one who has taken absolute refuge in thee? As thy weak child, the power to be impudently daring. But as soon as I said so, I felt as if I was possessed by some unknown power, and an extraordinary strength filled my heart. And no sooner had I uttered the mantras of that japa and sat on the lap of the woman like one hypnotized, unaware of what I was doing, then I merged completely in samadhi. When I regained consciousness, I saw the Bhairavi Brahmani waiting on me and assiduously trying to bring me back to normal consciousness. So it became very difficult to Bhairavi Brahmani now to bring back the consciousness, bring back the mind of Ramakrishna, which was merged in samadhi, to bring down to the lower plane. Bhairavi Brahmani had to take so much of difficulty now. She was assiduously trying to bring me back to normal consciousness. She said, because she has trained so many other people in these sadhanas, so she has seen this disciple too. She said, the rite is completed, my child. Others restrain themselves with great difficulty under such circumstances and then finish that rite with nominal japa for a very short time only. But you lost all consciousness and were in deep samadhi. When I heard this, I became reassured and began to salute the Divine Mother again and again with a grateful heart for enabling me to pass that ordeal unscathed. On another occasion, I saw the Bhairavi Brahmani cooked fish in the skull of a dead body and perform tarpana. Now, earlier you had read there are ashtapashas which are binding, the 8 fetters, the bondages, the rope which are binding us to this world, tempting us. 8 pashas, we all discussed in detail about that 8 pashas. So now here in these sadhanas, it is just to break the fetters. Now you have that aversion. One of the things is just like lajja, shame, hatred, grana, all those 8 fetters. One of them is aversion. You feel aversion to all those things. That is also one of the pashas. To remove that aversion, see, one of the sadhana is prescribed. So on another occasion, I saw the Bhairavi Brahmani cooked fish in the skull of a dead body. Sorry, in the skull of a dead body and performed tarpana, offering to Divine Mother. She also made me do so and asked me, offer that too, and asked me to take that fish. So I did as I was asked and felt no aversion whatever. So to remove that aversion, that bondage, which is not allowing you to go forward in this thing, all these sadhanas are done. But on the day when the Brahmani bought a piece of rotten human flesh and asked me to touch it with my tongue after tarpana, just to touch it with the tongue, I was shaken by aversion and said, can it be done? Can it be done? So questioned, she said, what is there in what is there in it, my child? Just see how I do it. Saying so, she put a portion of it into her mouth and said, aversion should not be entertained, and placed again a little of it before me. When I saw her do so, the idea of the terrible Chandika form of Divine Mother, the terrible form, the Kali, the Chandika, when she was killing all the Chandamunda, the demons, the fierce form of Divine Mother. When Bhairavi Brahmani did that, Ramakrishna saw that Chandika form, the divine, the fierce form of Divine Mother, Chandika form of the universal Mother, was inspired in my mind and repeatedly uttering, Mother, Mother. I entered into Bhava Samadhi. Then there was no aversion felt when the Brahmani touched that rotten human flesh to my mouth. Having initiated me thus in Purna Abhisheka, Purnam is complete, Abhisheka is pouring of water on the head. Pattabhisheka means making you the crown prince, make to sit on the throne is called Patta Abhisheka. Like that, this is Purna Abhisheka. The Brahmani made me perform daily tantric rites into numerous to mention. I now don't remember all the details, but I remember the day when I was able, by the grace of the Mother, to weave with perfect equanimity. But I remember the day when I was able to, but I was able, by the grace of the Mother, to weave with perfect equanimity. No thought or changes in the mind, perfect equanimity. The supreme pleasure of the pair of lovers, seeing nothing in it but the blissful sport of the divine. The mind, instead of descending even to the neighborhood of the ordinary human feelings, soared higher and higher, merging at last in deep samadhi. After regaining normal consciousness, I heard the Brahmani, Bhairavi Brahmani say, you have reached the desired end of a very difficult tantric sadhana and you have become established in the divine mode. This is the ultimate sadhana of the heroic mode of worship. Just like there are so many mode, attitude of worship, I told you in devotion, Dasya Bhava, Santana Bhava, Sakhya Bhava, Madhura Bhava, like that in Tantric scriptures, this is the highest. What is that? Heroic worship, mode of worship. It's called Veera Bhava, heroic mode of worship, Veera Bhava. So you have reached the highest. You have done, performed the highest sadhana, established in the divine mood. You have reached the desired end of a very difficult tantric sadhana and became established in the divine mood. This is the ultimate sadhana of the heroic mode of worship. Shortly afterwards, when I performed the worship of the female figure according to the tantric rites, I did it with the help of another Bhairavi in the open music hall of the temple in the presence of all during the daytime. When it was over, I saluted her according to the Shastra prescription. This was the last rite connected with the heroic mode of worship, which I completed in that manner, even as my mental attitude towards all women, namely that of a child towards his mother, remained intact during the long period of the tantric sadhana. So also I could never take a drop of wine at that time. The mere mention, because in the tantric sadhana, you have to even worship the Divine Mother with the wine, and also you have to take it a little. But even the word mention of wine, as I told you, that is karana. Karana means wine, the simple meaning, but the real essence or this thing is essence, cause, not essence, cause. Karana means cause. The mere name, mention of the name Karana, wine. In Bengali, the word Karana means both cause and wine. So, by the law of association, the mention of one gives rise to the thought of the other, of the wine to the universal cause. So that's why you have to know this is the law of association. You might be knowing a Russian scientist called Pavlov. There was a Russian scientist called Pavlov. He did experimentation. What is that experimentation? He had his pet dog. So he used to bring those dogs or dog. Then he used to every day ring the bell in the presence or in the hearing of the dog. And then he used to give the food to eat. Every day he made that practice. He will ring the bell and give the food. Ring the bell, give the food. So now the thought of eating the food was associated with the bell. So after so much of practice, associating the dog with the ringing of the bell and giving the food, after maybe 1 year or 2 year, he gave the food. No, sorry, he didn't give the food, but he rang the bell. Immediately, the saliva of the dog started coming out of its tongue. So then, by that experiment, he showed that the law of association. So there was no food, but it started salivating. Why? Because the bell was associated with the giving of the food. The moment he rang the bell, so the dog, because it is associated with food, the dog started salivating. So we have, our mind is associated with so many things. So some words will take us down to the bottom of this mind, to the subconscious bad areas. But some words will take us to the higher things. So it is all association. We have associated with those bad and good words. Accordingly, the mind, because of the law of association, either it goes to the higher plane or to the lower plane. But here, Ramakrishna, the training through the tantric practice of sadhana was given, gradually lifting up the mind to higher and higher plane. So even the worst of the things which attracts, pulls our mind down, so that would rush towards God. In that way, Ramakrishna is trained. That was the purity of the mind of Ramakrishna. So Ramakrishna is telling, there was no need for me to even touch the wine. The moment the name wine was mentioned, Karana, in Bengali. So the mere mention of the name of Karana or wine would inspire in me the immediate experience of the universal cause, that is God, and I lost myself in it completely. Similarly, as soon as I heard the words of that kind, the cause of the universe would present itself before me and I would be in samadhi. So one day, while living at Dakshineshwar, the master made mention of his lifelong filial attitude, like that of a child, lifelong filial attitude towards all women, and told us a story from the Purana. He told us a story from the Purana. The story describes how firmly the knowledge of filial relationship with all women, without any exception, was established in the heart of Lord Ganesha. So, Ganesha's highest ideal is the ideal for filial attitudes, Matrubhava, seeing Divine Mother, his own mother in all the women. So, Ganesha is the ideal for that. As I told you, all the gods and goddesses in our Hindu pantheon, they represent so many ideals, different ideals. So, Ganesha's ideal is to see Divine Mother, his own mother, Parvati or Durga, in all the female beings. So Ramakrishna is telling that one day while living at Dakshineshwar, the master made mention of his own lifelong filial attitude That is the motherly attitude, to see mother in all the women, in all the female creatures. Not only the human beings, women, but also in all the female beings, seeing Divine Mother. So, lifelong filial attitude towards all women, and told us a story from the Purana. The story describes how firmly the knowledge of filial relation with all women, without exception, was established in the hearts of Ganesha. So, Ganesha stands for that highest ideal of seeing his own mother in all the female beings. So, we had seen as children and growing up in India, our elders, especially the fathers, the elder people, this being at least practiced to some extent. Even in the just born baby, they used to address them as mother. While behaving, talking with all the children, girls, while they are growing up, elderly, everybody would be addressed. We were a witness to that. Our fathers, our elders, they used to address all the female beings, even the smallest just born baby also, they used to address them as mother. All the girls, all the women. So we used to see around us that atmosphere. So that is making them practice all the people. So it was there in India. Now, because of the Western education and other things, and all these communist thoughts, all those things are being destroyed, all that culture due to the modernization. But we have seen all those things in the eyes. All female beings were addressed by the elderly people as mother, mother. So that were being practiced, so that Ganesha's ideal and Ramakrishna became perfect all through. Ramakrishna is telling, one day while living at Dakshineshwar, the master made mention of his lifelong filial attitude. Filial attitude means mother, seeing mother in all the, his own mother, biological mother, as well as the divine mother, in all the living beings, in all the female beings. The lifelong filial attitude towards all women, and told us a story from the Purana. The story describes how firmly the knowledge of filial relationship with all women, without any exception, was established in the heart of Lord Ganesha. So, as I'm explaining, the education of Sri Ramakrishna, how he had so many masteries. So, all the 64 tantras, mastery in 64 tantras, not only just reading the philosophy, but also he had reached the end, the sadhana, realized it. So, master in tantras, 64 tantras, knowledge of tantras, master in Vaishnava literature. So now another thing is Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa. He is now Ganesha Swarupa. Ganesha stands for the ideal of filial relationship, seeing mother in all the female beings. So there is the highest ideal. And Ramakrishna maintained that filial attitude, seeing mother in all the women folk, in all the women. He established that filial relationship lifelong. So Ganesha's ideal is there in Sri Ramakrishna. That's why Ramakrishna is called Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. Ganesha is there, Shiva is there, Rama is there, Sita is there, Radha is there. Why? Because all the ideals have been realized into the fullest extent. That's why Ramakrishna is called Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. Not to tell something is greater than somebody or lesser than somebody. No. There is no question of greater or lesser. He is established in all these ideals. So now you can see that Ganesha's ideal. What is that Ganesha's ideal? The highest ideal of Ganesha. You may be having so many other ideals too. You may be representing just like Vidyadi Devata is the ideal for brahmacharya life. He is an ideal for a student education. So it's called Vidyadi Devata, remover of obstacles and other things here. What is that attitude? The master made mention of his lifelong filial attitude towards all women, seeing mother in all the women, and told us a story from the Purana. The story describes how the firm knowledge of filial relationship with all women, without exception, was established in the heart of Ganesha. So Ganesha Swarupa, Devi Swarupa, Shiva Swarupa, Vishnu Swarupa, Narayana Swarupa. Ramaswarupa, Sita Swarupa. We were all realizing how in that sadhana is realizing and emerging in him the ideal. He is realizing all those ideals in his life. That's why it's called Sarva Deva Devi Swarupa. Deva or Devi are represent ideals, principles for which they stand. So Ramakrishna is realizing one by one all that ideals in his life. That is the reason it's called Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa. Okay. Now it's already time. We will stop our discussion. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, I can entertain that. Any questions? Any doubts?
Om Swamiji.
Yes, Shrikant.
Swamiji. Swamiji, you mentioned earlier that at the time of death, Yamraj comes and drags you by the neck, and in previous classes, you can appear very fearsome. Swamiji, what is the need for this? So what is the significance of this? You've already died, you've lived your life, maybe spiritually or not. But what is the significance of this, Swamiji?
Yeah, whatever bad things, whatever good things we get is due to our karmas, whatever karmas we do, whatever actions we do. So all the actions, the bad things we have done, committed, the bad karmas, the sinful activities we have done all through our life will present before us as the god of death. So it's nothing, God will never punish you at any time. It is only our karmas which is putting us into trouble. So whatever bad things we do will come in the form of during the time of death and threaten us as the god of death. But if you have done good things, that will present to us in the form of God coming to us and lifting us up to the higher state. So it is in your hand whether to get Yama while you die. It is in your hand to get God or your Guru coming to help you going up in your spiritual life when you die. So nothing is in the hands of God, nothing is in the hands of your parents or your Guru or anybody. So whatever you do, you get the result. So it's in your hand. So go do good things, God will come to take you. Do bad things, karma, bad karmas, Lord of death, God of death will come to you. So drag us by the neck and pull us, and all the punishment is because of our bad karmas. That's all. So it's your karma which will decide. So learn to do good actions while we are living. So that will give us a good death, and we will be in a very happy state. We will not have fear of death at all. So it's in your hand. The karma, the good things you do, the sadhana you do. They see we have read recently in Krishna Janmashtami that Putana, I just did that Putana Moksha because I took up that subject. Even just touching the lips of Lord Baby Krishna, though she was a demoness, she had killed so many babies, she had done so many bad deeds. That demonish, that's why she was an Asuri, she was a demon. So now Lord Krishna himself, Baby Krishna himself became the god of death to her. Because of her bad karmas killing so many children, Baby Krishna appeared to her as death and sucked the life. But because of the touch, feeding that child, she got liberation too. So if that is the case, that day I told that if that Asuri or demoness Putana, by offering poisoned milk, breast milk to Krishna, baby Krishna, she got liberation because that offering aspect was there, just like a mother feeding the child. Even that small act, unknowingly done, gave liberation. Then if you start giving, offering butter, if you start offering milk, good things to the Lord, or to the babies, or to the destitute children, to the what do you call, the orphan children, the people, the children who are in suffering in disease, or to the people who are suffering, seeing the Lord in them. So the Lord will manifest to you during the time of death as a very pleasing Lord, and there will be no pain of death at all. So your actions will decide that. So it is purely your good or bad actions. It is as simple as that. Any other question? Any other doubts?
Maharaj, Pranam Maharaj, Madhu here.
Madhu, please tell.
Maharaj, I was reading this book from Swami Brahmananji Maharaj, The Eternal Companion.
Yeah.
In this book, at so many places, Maharaj says God is. So there is nothing to complete that statement. There's just God is. So what does that signify, Maharaj? Is this a complete statement or just they say God is?
No, see, when you go on adding so many superlatives and other things, you will be bringing down God to your level. You are trying to express Him through your indriyas, through your senses and mind limitation. So that's why our scriptures, while telling, speaking, or explaining about God, very minimum word is used. Sat, Chit, Ananda. So only these three words are used. What is Sat? Infinite existence. All that exists in this world, that infinite existence, absolute, is God. Then Chit, all that is conscious or knowledge here in this world, infinite consciousness, absolute, is God. Then Ananda, blissful, all that joy in this world. So infinite bliss or joy, absolute, is God. So they try to explain with very minimum words. Again, you are bringing down the Lord from his higher state. So at the most, you can tell God is. That's all. If you add one more thing, he is coming down to our level, to the level of our expression, tongue, and thought. But his state is very, very high. You can raise yourself to that thought and enjoy him. But the more you try to explain, he is coming down. That's all. That is the reason. But for our ordinary people's sake, we have to first explain and then take our mind to that higher level. So we do so many praises, we sing so many praises to understand him, then make our mind pure and raise our mind to that level.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay. I think there are no more questions or no doubts, so I can end the session with a prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneshwaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu